and welcome to Queer Abbey, a weekly chat show that is performed, recorded, and produced by yours truly. Hello, and welcome to Queer Abbey. I don't know, I said that like I was telling a ghost story. Something spooky's going on. Welcome to the 31st episode, y'all. I appreciate you for tuning in. I love coming here to chat with you each Sunday to give some unwarranted advice and share some amazing music from a local artist. Yay. Something that I am thinking about right now is that when you do porn, you kind of have to do like the sisterhood of traveling porn stars. Like, you have sex with somebody on camera and you're like, oh my God, great, nice to meet you. And then you follow each other on Twitter. And then for the next year that they're like in your algorithm, it's just like, oh, hey, look at you fucking another person. Oh, and look at you fucking that person that I know. Oh, and then, oh, hey, look, you found Sarah. Oh, and Lisa. And and Jack too. Oh, they're all together. It's just this really funny phenomena where there's not that many people who do porn on like a professional level. And so it's come to be that I know like a lot of the people that do porn in the US and the Pacific Northwest, got even people from like overseas I'm aware of. And it's interesting how small that world is, right? Because only so many people are willing to sacrifice people's respect for them in order to do something that they like that. Porn people are very interesting because you're going to find a lot of very artistic and open-minded people. That's really the through line. Both people that do like heterosexual type porn and gay porn and trans porn and kinky porn and not all of them have this common goal of creating a product that's sort of seen as not worthwhile by a large part of the general public, and that it's even becoming illegal in many states in the US. I have no problem with porn, obviously, as somebody that's in it, that makes it, that watches it. It's like anything else where it contains multitudes and it's a reflection of our humanity. And I think the fact that people like to demonize pornography so much has to do with the shame that they hold inside of themselves, you know? They feel bad about their own sexuality, and so they cannot fathom how sexuality can play out in a constructive way for somebody else. Obviously, there's issues with it. I didn't really start this conversation off thinking I was going to launch into a political speech about porn. I was more so just thinking about how I just saw a picture of this dude that I know fucking this other girl I know. But yeah, what's wrong with that, you know? Because people watch it and they love it. And I have a goddamn OnlyFans and people get joy out of it. And it, honestly, the only times that I've ever felt shameful about it are when other people felt gross on my behalf, if you know what I mean. Like, I've had relationships in the past where it was really difficult to reconcile the idea that other people could see me naked, and that, like, what that means to myself and what it means to a partner. And that one's still confusing to me, to be very honest, because I don't feel a sense of ownership over anybody in life except for myself, you know, like it's my body to tote around and do what I want with. But I understand that in relationships, we have expectations and boundaries. So I still don't know really what to think about all that, but I can't let question marks like that stop me from doing something that feels good and benefits me. You know, I make money, obviously, doing porn. It's how I fucking put myself through school and how I'm going to leave school with a bachelor's degree and almost no debt. It's because I did this thing and I had bravery and anyway, I did sort of just launch into a little speech, didn't I? Pornography, sexuality. Sexuality is this shadow in our society that we just don't think about it. We pretend like there's this cut and dry and concrete version of sex that is wholesome, that is defined by Christianity. I mean, for a couple hundred years, basically, or a couple thousand years, I guess, people have been interested in this puritanical idea of man and woman and of the union of this binary, of this, what's the word I'm looking for? dichotomy. The dichotomy of there is man and there is woman. There is these two distinct categories, and they must come together in equal and opposite measure in order for everything to be perfect. And that is an oversimplification of the truth. Let me tell you, the universe is not defined by what our human bodies generally look like. You know, my transness, my sexiness, my hoariness, all of that, it is measured by the weight of human judgment. Nothing in the universe tells me that those things are bad. I've always been a little tranny. I've always been creative. I've always been interested in being beautiful. You know, actually, this is an interesting thing. When I was little, my dad used to repeat this back to me because he's like, I don't know why you would say this, but I was like 7 or 8 years old, and I was telling my dad about like, I'm going to have a career when I'm older and I'm going to be a performer. And I told him, I'm going to stand up on a stage in front of people and I'm going to look really pretty and they're going to give me their money. And I don't know where that came from. Like, I didn't even know what I was talking about, but I said that verbatim to my dad. Like, I've always had this desire to make not a spectacle of myself, but to feel like a spectacle, you know? I don't really need everybody to be looking at me, but I do love to feel like my own little spot in the sky, like a little star that's just shining in my own little way. And that's very much what all of my creative pursuits are about. You know, it's just using my breath, using my hands, and putting it out there for other people to see out of bravery. Am I absolutely rambling right now? Am I crazy? I can't tell. I've had a little bit of caffeine and a little bit of dab pen. I'm just rolling on. I wish that I felt like the world was accepting of these things and accepting of me, but I've developed such a like oppositional personality as a consequence of being something that a lot of people don't like, you know? Being polarizing is sort of a curse sometimes because people on one hand love to go look at me naked, but on the other hand, they won't look me in the eye and admit that. And that's a difficult existence to live within, knowing that people want to look at you out of the corner of their eye, but not with their full gaze, out of fear, because they don't want other people to notice they're looking at you. It's very much a common theme of being trans or doing porn, either of those things, because of the moral, reprehensible aspect, you know? This triggers another thought for me. You know how men, you know, the men, men feel a sense of victimhood, I would say, in general. And of course, I can't speak for all men. This is just a huge generalization. But an observation that I've made is that men oftentimes feel limited by the idea of what they're allowed to be. Right? It's something that I've heard in past relationships. It's something I've heard from friends and just about the atmosphere, that men feel like they're not allowed to be angry. Like they're not allowed to, I don't know, be quote unquote real men because of these limitations, right? They feel like they're not allowed to, everybody's too woke, and so they can't say things that they think are funny or speak with an open mind or be whatever they want to be out of fear of repercussion. And I was just thinking about this yesterday, and I was like, can you imagine what the fuck it's like to be trans? Imagine being upset about all that while, like, I have shaped my entire life subconsciously around the idea of protecting myself. There is an entire quandary of things that I cannot do, and I just have accepted that I will never be able to do because I am trans, and because I want to pursue that and feel calibrated and happy. And so I'm going to sacrifice this whole list of things that are absolutely limiting. I can't be in, I could be, but I don't feel comfortable in like a women's choir. I cannot travel to about half of the fucking countries in the world because I have a passport that identifies my sex as male. And the more my body looks like I have boobies, it's really confusing. And I'm mortified by the idea of going to somewhere where I feel completely unfamiliar and being like interrogated about something like that or seen as like a freak. It's illegal to be gay or trans in a whole litany of countries. Like, I would love to go see the Kremlin in Russia, but nope, not doing that. We're on our way there in this country. I might have to fucking leave the place I was born. I left Idaho because of the absolute hatred towards gay people. Like, I could have stayed there, yes, but it was actually like there was no opportunity for me. And it felt hard every day to be there. It was working against my actual better interests. So I know that I'll probably never be able to have kids, quote unquote, naturally, even though that's something I would love to do. I've always dreamed about being, I guess, a mother or a parent. And so I just can't have that much sympathy for people who cannot understand my limitations in life, because I've always wondered, like, oh God, how can we make the world better for men so that they can stop acting like that? You know? And that's not the right answer. Honestly, I think everybody needs to search deep within themselves and realize the own limitations that they have and that they embrace in life, and why they're there, what they're about. And I don't think that people are challenged enough sometimes to think about that. Like, if I had lived in Idaho and I just deeply suppressed my urge to be effeminate or whatever, however you want to call that, because it's innate and it's always been there. And blessed believe, my dad put me in Boy Scouts at a Mormon church for 3 years, and that did not ungay me like you'd think it would. I lit fires and tied knots and pulled sleds and carved stuff and used knives, and I threw knives and tomahawks and shot bows and arrows and did all of these things that you might reckon are manly. And it doesn't negate anything, because gender, at the end of the day, is this performance, but there's a part of it that comes from within, and it comes from inside of each of us, and it even maybe looks a little bit different. Like I was talking about, sitting in my own little spot in the sky and just shining in my own way. That's just really all I want to do. And there's not just two groups of stars in the sky where it's like, okay, this constellation is man and this one is woman. We all are suspended within this great space, you know, and we all have a different experience, and we occupy a different space in life. And one day I hope that we can come to understand that, but I think that we're fallible, and that's probably not going to just easily come to be. What I'm going to do is just, I guess, keep talking about it. My experience with myself and other people. Oh, returning to my earlier point, could you imagine what I would be like if I was trying to like perform masculinity and convince people I was straight? Because like I did that until I was 15 or 16 years old. I tried, because I was being told by every outside source and every authority in my life, like, oh, yep, you really need to try to learn how to be more manly. And I noticed people's averse reactions to me being too giddy, too excited, too happy, basically, as a child and creative. And it was like, okay, yeah, like that's great, but just make sure you don't go too far with that. And so one day I just came out of me on Christmas, actually, when I was 15 years old. Yep, 15 years old on Christmas. My family was all gathered around, and I don't know, I didn't plan it at all, but this bravery came over me, and I had been watching people on YouTube come out. These coming out videos were very popular, and I said, I have to do this. I don't know. This is something I have to do. And it came over me, and I tap on a glass. I tapped on it, and I announced, I said, I'm gay. And then I ran upstairs and bawled my eyes out. And no matter how hard I tried to avoid that moment, I knew it was inevitable. And I'm ultimately very glad that I had the cognizance to do that when I was 15 and not when I was 40, you know? Because that's these bitter men out here. I'm not saying every man is a closeted gay person or tranny. We're all different. We're all in our own space in the sky. But I set myself free when I was 15. And it's been difficult to be untethered like that from this system of this gender dichotomy. But it really was the right thing to do. Aw, that's kind of sweet. Happy holidays also. I forgot about that. Okay, I'm going to move on. Let's get on to some advice for this week. It's time to tell people what to do. Alrighty, welcome to the advice segment of this episode. For this first prompt from an anonymous caller, we have the question, I saw dating apps and porn on my dad's phone. We were having problems with our internet and phone service, and it got shut off. My dad didn't know how to fix it, so I was on his phone, looking to see the provider's website on his account, trying to see if there's anything I can do. But it kicked me off the website, and there was like a bunch of porn websites in his shortcuts, the recently visited thing, all that. I closed out of it because I didn't want him to know I saw that, and after that I was looking for the Verizon app in his apps. But then I saw Tinder and some other dating app I didn't see what it was because, again, I didn't want anyone to know I saw it, so I left the page quickly and gave him his phone back and told him I didn't know what to do. I went back to my room. I don't know if I should tell my mom. Yikes. Yeah, I saw Daddy texting Santa Claus on the Tinder app this Christmas Day. Okay, sorry, side note, inappropriate, but I love that song. Yeah, your dad's cheating. Or there's one other possibility. Maybe your parents have an open relationship and you just don't know about that. But it sounds more likely that your dad's cheating. I think straight dudes, because we see women as such commodities that have a material value, men cheat because they think they're getting some sort of value that they're not getting elsewhere by seeing a woman that is, or seeking even, not even seeing, just seeking out women that are younger and prettier or whatever to them, that have more ideal bodies or whatever. Because we are taught to get what we need from women to extort them into taking care of us, basically, and acting like our moms, while at the same time fulfilling our sexual needs, our proverbially, men. And then we discard them and find a newer model. That's truly something that's like an epidemic in our society. I mean, so many marriages end in divorce over this exact dynamic of like a man that is in a marriage that cannot stop seeking other women. I made a lot of generalizations there, but that's pretty much how it played out in my childhood, like hearing my mom complain about the same things. And so now let's get to the what do you do about it, right? It's pretty clear when you see something like that was like meant to be a secret. I'm really harping on the Tinder thing and not the porn because, like I just said earlier, I don't know what your dad's relationship is to porn. Maybe it's perfectly fine for him to be watching that. I don't know. I see how it's mortifying when you're his kid. You're like, ew, gross. Like, it's not something that you should see either. Your dad should have better, like, boundaries there and, like, not leave porn up on his phone if he's going to give it to you, right? Like, who does that? So, yeah, because he wasn't hyper cautious, maybe it's fine. But yeah, if it was me, I would tell my mom. I don't talk to either of my parents. But if I was you and I was in this scenario and I cared about my mom, I probably would tell her. But be prepared for an unexpected reality because, like I said, maybe they have an open relationship and you don't know. And it might trigger an awkward conversation, but it's better to have an awkward conversation than to let your mom be like fucked over, I guess. That's my opinion. This is a heavy one for Christmas time. Goddamn. Okay, moving on. The next one. This anonymous caller asked, Queer Abbey, how do you handle a friend who becomes a different person when they're with their boyfriend? Every time my best friend gets a new partner, they disappear while they're dating, adopt their boyfriend's hobbies and opinions, drop our plans last minute. And now they're engaged and unrecognizable. I miss my friend, but I don't know if I should say something or let go. Yikes. Oh, I could cry for you, Angel. I'm sorry to hear that. That's a tough reality, really, when people become invested in relationships. It's you don't have ownership over anybody, your friends, your lovers. And when people drift away like that, unfortunately, you have to let them. I think that's my succinct and hard answer is your friend is choosing that relationship, and that, so be it. You can totally be communicative. You can ask them to hang out, but if they drop the plans, like, what are you supposed to do, really? I mean, I've experienced this plenty of times in my life. I remember in high school going through this phenomenon, realizing that, like, my straight girlfriends were very much interested in finding boyfriends and then, like, not interested in hanging out with me anymore once that happened. I was always really fun to have around, to, like, go to the mall with or drive around and smoke weed, because I started doing that around that time. And I did makeup. I wore crazy makeup to school. So these like flamboyant white women were like, oh my God, let me wear you like an accessory. And I had a couple of friends that were not like that. I had a lovely friend named Trinity and this friend named Emily, and I did not feel like they were, like, accessorizing with me. But and Daphne, love all of those people still. It's just I had plenty of other friends, like this one friend that I asked her to homecoming and she said yes, and we planned that we were going to go together. And then, like, a couple of days before, she did this optics move where she worked in the special ed program, and she was like, oh my God, I'm going to take one of the special ed kids to homecoming and take pictures so that I look really good. And so she ditched her faggot friend and instead took her friend with Down syndrome because it looked even more pathetic to other people, I guess. And she took pictures and posted them, and I never went to a school dance ever. Oh my God. Sorry, that's such a self-piteous thing to say. But yeah, it happens. People move on. People make choices that are not good for you because they're good for them. And that is the reality of life. It happens a lot. God, it sucks too, because people, they're your best friend and then they feel loved. They get this attention that they've never had before, that maybe they've had it and they've just been craving it again. And they're like, oh, finally. And they just become completely enveloped by this person. They spend all of their time together. Maybe they even move away. Yeah. That's something that straight people do, unfortunately. And gay people. Gay people be doing that too. But the level at which straight people have this commitment to, like, being together, it's part of this dichotomy of, like, oh, well, this is what we're supposed to do, isn't it? And I think especially as gay people, we forget until it's too late. Like, we have this group of heterosexual women that really love to be around us and go to the gay bar with us, and then they all get married and never speak to us again. Or it's once a year on our birthday, it's, oh, hey, happy birthday, diva. And because we're not in a heterosexual relationship with them to go to the sports bar with them where it works out nicely, you just sort of drift apart. I'm really making this about my experience, so I apologize, but that's just what I have to say about it. In your instance, I don't know who you are. I don't know who your friend is, but what I can tell you is that they are choosing somebody, and if they do this repeatedly, it's probably in your best interest to just figure out how to move on, find more stable friendships, or don't even hold it against the person, because, like I said, it is human nature. We move on from things. We cannot possess people and hold them in the same place in life forever. And decide what's worth it to you, you know? Maybe you want to hold on to this friendship with white knuckles. Maybe you embrace that life is an ever-changing cycle and you just move on with the lovely memories of being friends with them. That's probably the easiest thing to do, no? Well, those were some pretty heavy prompts, both of those, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap that up. My little heart cannot take it. Not around Christmas time. Not around Christmas time. Yeah. Some lovely and sort of emotionally laden advice prompts this week. Thank you for listening, and thank you for submitting these prompts, anonymous callers. You're what keeps this show going, the fodder that allows me to survive. So, if you are interested in having an advice prompt answered, you have a question, a quandary, a query, or even an inquiry, any of those things are fine. Maybe even a comment if it's nice. You may submit that using the anonymous inbox that's linked in the description of this episode. It's right there for you. Just click on it. It's a Google Forms sheet. You fill it out and you just hit send. You don't have to type your name, an email, anything. It's just a little, sends me an automated email with your message. And if you felt brave, you could also send us a voicemail or a text to our phone number, which is 503-567-2053. Or our email, which is queerabby@gmail.com. That's QUEERABBEY@gmail.com. Yay! I have a really fantastic musical spotlight coming up for you. I connected with this person through work, which has been really cool. I've sort of made a habit of asking people, like sussing out, do you make any music? Because clearly I love to feature people's music and discover new stuff. And it's just led to all of these fucking awesome insights. This person, their name's Mikey. They came to my work. And I asked them, do you make music? And we discussed it just a couple of times because I see them fairly regularly. And he's like, yeah, I like to sample stuff using a little sampler. And they compose and work with other artists. And they had just released an album this past month in November. It's called Gravitas. And it has a bunch of tracks on it. It's a full album. It's been mastered. It sounds really fantastic. And it was just another one of those times where somebody's like, oh yeah, I have some music, like very humbly. And then I listened to it and I was like blown away. So really, really cool stuff. Their artist name up on Spotify and all the other streaming platforms is Listeninglistener. And it's a collaboration with another artist named Jesse, who's doing the rap vocals on the album. Like I said, Mikey uses a sampler to compose. There's a lot of like sampled speeches and oratorical type stuff with like interesting voices and sentiments and stuff coming in. It's mixed with this cool music. I know it was sent off and produced and then mastered as well. So it's this really amazing collaboration. If you're interested, you can look at the credits on each song, of course. But yeah, main collaboration between Listeninglistener and Jesse. The song that I picked is the title track. It's the first track on the album called Gravitas, and it's really cool. It's got this, like I said, these elements of speech coming in. There's this like kind of crispy, wizened voice that comes in, and it's talking about gravitas. And there's this cool jazzy horn section thing happening. It feels very much like this like Cuphead, Devil's Casino, ba-da-ba-da-boom, like little half steps happening. Thinking about the music, it's really cool. Has a very shady, cool, and self-reflective kind of vibe. And the lyrics are this kind of like sassy, biting little thing about having gravitas, but getting in the studio, about maybe sacrificing other things in order to build this sense of self, to build this persona that you come out with gravitas, that you get into the studio and you make this music that means something to you. And I really enjoyed it. So Mikey and Jesse, good job. You did a fantastic job on this album. And without too much further ado, let's get into it. Let's give a listen to Gravitas by Listeninglistener and Jesse from the album Gravitas.
End of the day, I bet on me, invested in me. It setting me free, cause life was a lie. Daily I'm high, disguised as a hero. That lies lie with the wrong woman in bed, get closer to death. Waking up tired, still maintain to get fresh. Taking my time, not even the job can rush. Cause this music means more, cause it's deeper than us. Longing for God, Jesus take care of my soul. Stuck in my woes, hoping that I blow for flow. I need nothing but to work really hard. Inspired by those who's been doing that. Facing my phone, right here but so trapped. Globe charter, mapped at the map, city is huge. Still on my back, underground genius, redefining what's rap. Super tough overheads, I'll be running it back. 2 mics, 2 stands, still gonna stand how you act. In my late 20s, looking 22, what a catch. Caught a weird vibe off you, not spewing the facts. I mutter the track and leave it at that. Went down the rabbit hole, never pulled one out the hat. The sun, the gun, if I'm strapped, it's my dad's cat. So let me come for 9mm. I'm sure you don't wanna meet her. If the day ever came, I'd light you up like reefer. Standing tall on the bleachers, once behaving to teachers. Walking on the beaches, teach our future leaders. I knew I messed up big when I figured she a keeper, but I'm a cheater of note. All these notes couldn't keep her. No nuance, move along, just leave her. It's just me and the producer, no feature. Strung along, desperate for peace. Stay calm, you'll find the relief. Strung along, desperate for peace. Stay calm, you'll find the relief.
my life and I wanted to do certain things. Since then, I've just been like, if I ever were to do my first album, I would have to approach it with a lot of
Gravitas.
At that time in life, I wanted to go and study, like go to university and applying and getting bursaries and all that. I had to approach that with real
Gravitas.
And I was like, hey, I can't understand what you mean.
Alright, so I'm also going to approach the album with the same attitude, with the same mindset. I'll be listening to this album with
Gravitas.
All right, y'all. That is Gravitas by Listening Listener and Jesse. I hope you enjoyed it. I am so proud, more than anything, of the cool playlist of Pacific Northwest music that I have come across and discovered since starting this podcast and asking my friends and people I know just barely about the music that they make. So if I can give you any advice, it's that you should ask people about their art. When you're just going about your day, don't forget that people make awesome, beautiful things with their hands and their minds and their breath, and you should ask about it and see it and enjoy it because it rocks. I'm saying it out loud now so that I'll be accountable to it, but I really want to make a playlist of Pacific Northwest artists that have been featured on this podcast so that I can have that, even as like a little keepsake in a way, like all the songs that I featured this first year of Queer Abbey. Because we've been going for a little over 6 months now. I started in the beginning of June, and we are to the new year pretty much. So, yay! Thanks again to everybody who's allowed me to feature your music on here. Thanks to Mikey and Jesse for today. And thank you to everybody who listens and enjoys it. I foresee great things for this podcast. One day I'll even have like video equipment, but I'm gay and busy, so that might be a couple months. Okay. Thanks again for tuning in. That's about all I have for you this week. I will see you next Sunday on Queer Abbey. And until then, love you. Bye. Mwah.